Hello and welcome to that 90s Wrestling Podcast. Thanks for clicking on the video. I am your host James Sunstow, and seeing that's the final video of 2020, decided to do a countdown of my 10 favourite interviews of this past 5 months I've been doing since the start of the show. Before we get to the countdown, I just want to say, for people who hasn't made the list, this isn't a knock on you, and I'm thankful to every one of you who's gave me your time to do the interviews, and I love it a lot, but for these interviews I've listed, I've just specific reasons and why I've done it, which obviously I'll name in the video. But for everyone who didn't make the list but who has been on the show, I want to say again, thank you for coming on, because this show wouldn't be where it is without you. So, with that out of the way, let's do the countdown. Number 10, we've got Fondue Rosa. I didn't realise how big this interview would become, because when I interviewed Thunder, this was literally about 2 weeks before she appeared on AEW. So, and we spoke about many things like her training, how she got into wrestling, NWA, Lucha Underground, and the reason why she just things didn't work out there. And one of the questions, what I did ask, was the rumours about her joining AEW, and she answered them fully. So here's a clip of her answering that question. Recently, there's been a groundswell for people for you to sign with AEW. Do you see that as a pressure, or is it just something that spurs you on in your career?
Hey man, I haven't been wrestling hella long. That means people want to see me succeed, and it's good when your name is out there, even though you're not in a main TV show or you haven't been in a humongous TV show as Fondue Rosa. It's a lot. It's not pressure, you know. It's like if you're a star, if you have it, if you have what it takes, you're gonna make it everywhere you go. You shouldn't take it as pressure.
Cool. Number 9, we have got Ace Austin from Impact Wrestling, and the reason this video's made a list because this is my first interview of Impact Wrestling. I messaged Ace on Twitter. I said, would love to interview you, is there any way we can make it happen? He told me exactly who to speak to, and he said, basically, speak to these guys and they'll get you sorted out. Since then, I've had a great working relationship with Impact Wrestling, interviewed many great stars, from Ace Austin to Deonna Purrazzo to Eric Young, Tasha Steelz, Kira Hogan, William Mack, Nevaeh, Havoc. The names are endless, and I'm looking forward to the interviews I'm going to be having next year with them. But in this clip, I spoke to Ace and mentioned one of the first feuds I noticed about him, and it was his feud with Eddie Edwards. And we bring it up, and he tells a hilarious story about why Eddie Edwards won't let this feud go.
And Impact up to now, I think your first one, which this is the time when I started noticing you, was your feud with Eddie Edwards. Do you think it's about time he has to let it go now? You trying to deduce his misses, because he doesn't seem fat. He doesn't want to leave you alone.
Oh yeah, I don't think he's gonna let it go because I think deep down Eddie's insecure, you know, and and I think that he's gonna have even more of a problem with me when I become the youngest world champion in the history of the company at one anniversary. I'm always going to have that target on my back. That's just the price I pay for being so young and so very good at what I do.
Number 8, we've got Henry O'Godwin. This was quite a good one for me because also Kevin was on this interview, and unfortunately this was actually our last video together, me and Kevin, before he left and done his own thing. So shame to see him go, but at least it gives me more time to do my interviews, and I could be greedy and have these interviews for myself. But yeah, Henry Godwin, and it's crazy because growing up as a kid, and you know, while he's about the new generation era, I was there like 6 and 7-year-old, and he was one of the guys I remember watching WrestleMania 12, him and Phineas as the Godwins against the Body Donners and Sonny. And he tells some hilarious stories in his interview, stories about Sonny, Owen, Davey Boy. One of my favourite stories was the story involving them and Takers, the BSK, and a hotel room that got smashed up. So here's a clip of that.
Yeah. No, it was Tampa. It was Tampa. And we were at a hotel, and we had like a suite. And me and Taker and Phineas Dennis had went out that night, and we just went close to the hotel and went to a little bar and had dinner and then started drinking. Well, by the time we got out of that place and got back to the hotel, we were feeling pretty good, and Tex was helping me. I was limping. We got in the room, and me and Taker and Dennis started wrestling, and we tore the damn room apart. It was hilarious. I mean, stuff like that.
Who paid the bill?
Taker, he made more money.
That's the right answer. That's a good friend.
Number 7, we've got JTG. Another one of these interviews I would never in my wildest dreams 6 months ago I would actually have. Unfortunately, this came about a couple of months after his tag team partner, the late great Shad Gaspard, passed away. And we talked about that. We talked about his start in wrestling, Crime Time, his work on the independents now, his aspirations of joining AEW, and some great fun stories. And one of the stories I'd asked him about was what was the funniest moment him and Shad had, and he tells a hilarious story about Shad going to ringside and picking up the biggest girl he could find. So here's a story.
Damn, there's so many. I gotta pick one. I've seen Shad in the audience, like he said, like right before we went out, like our music was hitting. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna go in the audience and look for the most overweight female and pick her up and make sure she has the greatest time." I'm like, why would you want to do that? Like, and he went out in the audience, and we did our entrance, and then he found the biggest chick and picked her up, and she'll never forget that night. Yeah, that's the type of person Shad is. He likes to do the most outlandish, craziest thing. But I do remember that, him doing that.
Cool. Number 6, Epico Cologne, or Orlando Cologne. This was a really great chat, and it was one of the first, I suppose you could say, ex-WWE guys, like from more current time, who came onto the show. And really great guy, great interview, and gave me more than enough time for this interview. I think it went over an hour, and same sort of thing, great story, talking about growing up in Puerto Rico as part of the Colognes, joining WWE, his original days in FCW, going to the main roster, explaining why Sin Cara failed in WWE, and it's really, really good chat and a really great guy. And one of the funniest stories was the proposed gimmick, what was planned. You thought Los Matadores was bad. Well, here's a story about him and the potential of the Puerto Rican Playboys.
They came up with this gimmick. We were supposed to be the Puerto Rican Playboys.
Oh, God.
And we're in the office, and Vince goes, "Yeah, you guys are good looking. You're Puerto Rican. I want you guys to dress like Hugh Hefner." It's like it was like a mix with Hugh Hefner and Goldust. We're gonna wear black and gold. Oh, it was just, me and Primo looked. We almost threw up right there. It's like, oh. And here's your gimmick. Here's gear. They had gear and everything, and we had the black and gold robe like Hugh Hefner. Yeah, we were gonna be like Goldust. You know, it's like this like exact same color scheme as Gold. Oh God, please. We were about to debut, and then 2 hours before we were supposed to debut with that gimmick, Vince goes, it might be too much for TV. You know, Playboys. What is that? And that was his idea. So then we get called into the office. He goes, "Yeah, I want you guys to sell me Puerto Rico. Just, sell it to me. Sell me a timeshare." And I'm like, "We'll do whatever you want other than Puerto Rican Playboys to begin with." Because, like, yeah. And that's when the Shining Stars gimmick started. You know what?
Number 5, Trevor Medic. Really great interview. This was an interview I was looking forward to. This was about a week or two after he became NWA National Champion, and really great interview. And one of the things I mentioned when we first started the interview was that I remember I've only ever been to one WWE event in the UK, and that was in Nottingham, and I was 17, I think, so back in 2006. And one of the matches I specifically remember was him and his partner Lance Cade against Crime Time. And I said to him, I was like, it's crazy, like 14 years later, like I'm actually interviewing you. And he was a really great interview, and like really great stories. Talked about when Lance Cade sadly passed away, working with Hardy Boys, that great feud they had, and tag runs, joining TNA for that short run. then eventually finding his way into the NWA and becoming a national champion. Really, really great interview, really great guy, and one of the funniest John Cena stories you'll ever hear. So here's a clip of it.
Idea, none of this is going on. I have no idea. So, knock, knock, knock on the door. Referee at the door. Hey, Cena wants you to come down and drink. Fuck you. Leave me alone. Get out of here. I close the door. I'm in my underwear now, man. I'm in bed. Like I'm in my boxer briefs. I got the TV off. I'm ready to call it a night, About 10 minutes later, on my door, when I open it, Cena goes to tackle me. But I front face lock him, and I'm in my boxer briefs, and I spread my legs out. Now, if you guys have ever been in a hotel room, you know that the initial corridor is very small. When I front face locked him and I spread my legs out, I caught both ends of the closet, and I barreled down on him right there. Doors open. I'm in my boxer briefs, and Cena's like, Trevor, let me go. It's Cena. I just want you to come drink. I want you to come drink. And Cade is standing there laughing his ass off because he knew what was going to happen. He knew I wasn't going to go down easy, and he is laughing his ass off. And I was like, you son of a bitches. So, of course, I get up and we go downstairs in the lobby and drink till 5 o'clock in the morning and go to bed for 4 hours and wake up and get on the bus and head to our next show.
Number 4, we've got Elijah Merk, Pope D'Angelo De Niro for TNA fans. This was an interview I really wanted to do because I was always a fan of Elijah Merk, and he obviously left WWE, went to TNA, and had really good success in there. And he told me, which you'll hear in the interview, the plan push was for him to defeat AJ to become the champion, but plans changed, and he ended up putting it on to RVD. And AJ actually said to him, he said, if I knew they was going to do that, I would have dropped the belt to you. So, but a really, really great interview. Stories, talking about ECW, what was it like there, refusing the Spirit Squad's good. What else did he say? There's so many good stories, like how good John Cena was behind the scenes, his feud with CM Punk, where he enjoyed the matches, but CM Punk had some less than complimentary things to say about him. And one of the big talking points we had was the fact that he wrestled Chris Benoit's last ever match, and what was Benoit like that day. So here's a clip of him speaking about Benoit.
Opponent Chris Benoit before, obviously, the tragedy. What was it like working Benoit's last match? And also, I don't know, it's a hard question to say, but did you get a sense of something wasn't there for him? Or no.
It was great. It was great. I wrestled him that weekend before ECW. I saw him. I saw the family. Everything seemed normal. And there was only one thing Chris said to me that, but we all said, I said to this very day, and that was talk to me, talk to me. I have a tendency to forget stuff, but that was never necessarily a need to do, because, and by talk to me, I think he just mean communicate while in there with him, because Chris didn't plan a lot of stuff. There was nothing. We went out there on that TV match that you saw. All I knew, the only thing that was said was, I'll beat you with the crossface or the sharpshooter. And that was it, that was it. When he went up for the headbutt, he called that, and of course I know he's going to do it at some point. And then he went to the opposite side, which made me elevate my legs above my knees, above my face, and it literally exploded my back just about. Yeah. So but no, everything was good,
Number 3, we've got Big Con, FKA Connor from The Ascension. I can't say I was surprised, but in a way I was, for how good of an interview this was. We was going back and forth messages like for a few weeks organising this interview, and we was meant to do it 1 week earlier, but we completely forgot it was Thanksgiving. Obviously, as a UK guy, I wouldn't have a clue what Thanksgiving, what day it was. So eventually we done it, got the interview on, and wow, this was just a really, really good interview. And you hear a lot of disgruntled workers like when they leave WWE, and Connor was nothing like it at all. Like from what I heard, and he says it himself, WWE gave him such a good life, gave him his family, his wife, his kids. He met his wife in FCW. He, had a great relationship with Vince McMahon, and made a good living for 10 years, and just very happy about his time. And man, Connor had some really, really great impressions, like from his Dusty Rhodes story, speaking about Dusty's reaction to them being called up to the main roster and how Dusty was against it completely. Working in the main roster, the Fashion Files with Fandango, which was one of me, Fandango Tyler Breeze, which was one of my highlights in the interview, but nothing could top the Vince McMahon story gave at the end and the potential gimmick they was going to give him. So here's a clip of that.
Johnny Ace had set up a meeting with me and Vince McMahon. I remember walking in there, and Vince was like, knocked on the door, and I hear, "Come in." And I walked in, and I'm like, holy shit, this is like everything that like you hear, and this is it. This you're gonna come if he likes you, or if he doesn't like you. And he sat down, and Johnny was sitting right there with me, and Johnny's like, we need to find a gimmick for him. Vince is looking at me, and he's just like, yeah, okay. What kind of music do you like? And I was like, I like heavy metal. And he goes, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have said heavy metal. Maybe I should have said something else.
Yeah.
And he's like, what kind of movies you like? I was like, I like action. And he goes, It's like the disappointing look. And I go, oh man, really fucking this up. Oh my God. And then Johnny Ace, he goes, well, Finley says he looks like a rat. And Vince goes like this. He goes, and I go, oh no. I go, fuck no, please no. And he goes, can you talk like this? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, and he's like playing the character to me, and I'm like, excuse me, sir. He goes, can you talk like this? And I was like, and I remember I couldn't do it. And he's like, well, get better at it, kid, okay? And I remember feeling so shitty about that meeting. I remember going to my hotel that night, and I got tissues, and I stuck them up my nose so that I could talk like this. And so I practiced all night, and then I came down.
And we're down to the final two, and just missing out on that top spot just by a little bit. We've got the daughter of the legendary British Bulldog, Georgia Smith. This was one that I was really looking forward to. So growing up, my two favourites was Brett, and obviously being a UK guy, my second favourite was British Bulldog. And the fact that I was able to speak to Georgia for over an hour, I think it was, talking about Davey Boy, stories like what he was like at home, what was it like away from home, and like him wrestling, and her like how excited she is that he's going to the Hall of Fame, and the British Bulldog website and the fan pages and things like that, and all the work she's been doing there. It was such a great thing, and she told some many great stories. One of my favourite stories was her patching up things with Dynamite Kid, Tom Billingham, before the end, and like that was a story that got me emotional. And it was really good to listen to, and you can tell like how much love there was for her father, and it was such great time like talking about Davey Boy and like all the fun stories, like and the ribs he used to pull with Owen, and like their stories she told me what I didn't know about, and those stories I told her like what I've heard and she never knew about. So it was really great. And one of my favourite stories was the night before SummerSlam '92, possibly the biggest match in Davey Boy's career against Brett at Wembley, and she basically tells the story what he was like the night before. So here's a clip.
Promo that you're watching Davey's promo, and it was like back to back, and I saw my dad in bed, and I was like, I don't know if like how he's gonna do this. How is he? But I didn't know like the magnitude. I just thought it was fight on TV. Not, sold out in 11 hours.
Yeah, it was.
Main event, Continental Championship, So I remember that, and I remember my dad was like, it was very tense, and my mom and dad, my brother and I were sharing one bed, and my parents were sharing one bed, and my brother and I were like kicking each other and fighting, and my dad was like, stop, shut up, the bed. And I was like, man. But it was because, obviously I would have been stressed the next day. I was wrestling in front of 80,000.
Biggest match of your career.
My career. Yeah, that's about all I remember of SummerSlam.
Yep. So before we get to number one, there is a few honourable mentions. So there's one I haven't even put on the YouTube channel yet. It's still on the podcast channels, and it's probably someone you're not really familiar with, but her name's Goldilocks, and she was basically the original TNA Knockout, and she was my first ever guest, and basically, she messaged me, says I'd love to come on your show, and basically it was a good interview, really good stories, and she holds nothing back. And basically after that, I kind of got the I don't know, I just wanted to do more interviews, and after that, that's when the show started diverting more from just strictly pay-per-view reviews, going to interviews, and that was because of her. And I want to say thank you to Goldilocks for coming to the show and giving me, I suppose, the itch to start doing more interviews, because if it wasn't for her, then the interviews I have done, they wouldn't be there. So I want to say a big thank you to her. And there's other interviews I've done, forgive me if I can't name all of them, but Joe Redman, who was in NXT, won the tag titles with Pat Adrian Neville, great guy, had a great chat. The Blossom Twins, great chat. Ring of Honor television champion Shane Taylor, had a really good chat with him. It was so good talking to him and his views on UK fans, which was hilarious. Mentioned earlier, Impact Wrestling spoke to the likes of Eric Young, NWA legends like Nikita Koloff, like a legit legend. So great chats to him, and there's many more I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but please, if you can get around to it, please check them out, because all of them was really good interviews. So we're finally here. Our number one interview of 2020 is the Real World Champion, Nick Aldis. It was an interview I couldn't believe I got. I remember sending an email off to Nick. It must have been 3 or 4 days beforehand, and there was no response. So I thought, he might be just too busy. And then I was walking around the supermarket, and email came through from Nick Aldis. I'm like, oh, what's this? And it came through, and he was like, yeah, I'd love to come on. What time do you want to do it? And I was like, oh, wow. Because being from the UK, I always support the UK wrestlers, rather it be Nick Aldis, Drew McIntyre, Danny Birch, whoever. As long as they're UK, they've got my support. And so seeing that, I've been following his career for such a long time, when he was in Gladiators, and we also spoke about it, and how referee John Anderson was the biggest diva he ever worked with. From there, watching him join TNA as Brutus Magnus, and eventually Magnus being part of the British invasion with Doug Williams and Rob Terry, even though they were the heels, they was my UK guys, so I always supported them. And and seeing the success he had there, and then going to the NWA, where he's become one of the best champions in NWA history, in my opinion. And this was just such a great interview. He was so in depth with his interview, with his stories, talking about Harley Race, what it was like when he joined TNA, being a part of the Main Event Mafia with Sting and Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. His praise for Sting. His backstage interactions with Hulk Hogan, and then eventually becoming TNA champion, why he left. This was also recorded, I think, a week or two after his supposed big online spat with Bruce Pritchard, after Bruce Pritchard was basically being a dick. But so, he basically gave me the exclusive. He'd done many interviews, but he said himself, right, James, I'm going to give you the scoop, and he gave me the actual reason why Bruce Pritchard doesn't like him. So to be part of that, it was great. And also shout out to the NWA podcast, who after this interview we became good pals. And when it's great when I've got comments from like listeners and viewers and like saying you're doing a good job. It really means the world to me. And when there's other fellow podcasters and these guys, that's basically what they cover is the NWA, and they cover other stuff. And they spoke about it for half an hour because I messaged Nick afterwards and I said thanks for coming on, and he said don't worry about it, James, had a great time. You caught me on a good day. And he said even our podcast over here was talking about it, and I listened to it, and like these three guys was speaking about this interview is 2 hours long, by the way, so you have to make space in your diary. But these guys spent half an hour just talking about this interview, and the one guy in particular, Rob Stinson, who's probably the biggest Nick Aldis fan in the world, he's saying things like, I've listened to every Nick Aldis interview, and this is at the top. And for someone who's still relatively new into doing interviews, meant the absolute well to me. Thinking, wow, like it's great hearing the feedback. And when like some people who's been podcasting longer than me says things like this, it was like, wow. And this, basically, this was kind of, I wouldn't say put me on the map because I'm still not on the map, but this got me a lot of, fans, I suppose, or subscribers, and a lot of people start checking out my work more. So it's all because of Nick. And like I said, many great stories are from Nick. And this one I'm going to put on is when he was on about when he was negotiating with WWE about possibly joining them, and he brought up AJ Styles, and WWE's attitude towards AJ Styles is very different to what it is today. So listen to this clip.
Segment, and he produced it beautifully.
Mm.
Because if I'd have won, everyone would have been like, oh, this guy's being pushed too much. AJ was the guy, clearly. I mean, and obviously what he's got. This is a funny story. I know I'm going all over the place, but I do have a point, I promise. But so when I was talking to that WWE executive, what AJ came up in conversation because he was like, and he made some reference to, AJ maybe, having the chance to go and not going or something. And I said, well, AJ is the best in the business. And he kind of scoffed and was like, because he wasn't in WWE, because he wasn't a WWE guy. And I was like, AJ is the best in the business, and it's funny now to see, to now, fast forward. Now he's like everyone, and now everyone at WWE, oh yes, AJ is the best in the business. I've always thought that, and it's like, fuck off. Anyway. But
so guys, mate, it's the end. Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it and the interviews, what I've spoke about. And if you haven't seen any of these interviews yet, I've just made one nice little tidy playlist, and it's got every interview I've done in one section. So please, if you want to check them out, please do so, and I promise you're not going to be disappointed. And also what I'll do as well, announce some upcoming interviews, what we'll be releasing. So before the new year's out, it was a last minute thing, but I am going to be doing this week a big fat wrestling quiz of 2020. So I've got some friends who's coming on. We've got representatives from America, Canada, Ireland, from the UK, and I'm going to be your quizmaster, so I'm looking forward to doing that. So that should be out New Year's Eve. And my next 3 interviews will be getting released to start 2021 off with a bang. First interview will be PCO, formerly Rebecca Pierre, or Jean-Pierre Lafitte, I suppose you know from WWE, former Ring of Honor World Champion, and really great interview. We talked about him joining WWE, his run with the Mounties, the Quebecers, his tag team title runs, becoming Jean-Pierre Lafitte, his great match with Bret Hart in Your House 3, and also the politics from the Clique, and basically how they sabotaged his WWE run, and like wrestling on the independents, and then having a retirement, then coming back as a completely different animal, or a monster, I suppose, in this case. So that was a great chat. So he'll be my first interview of New Year's. After him, we've got mentioned him previously, Nick Aldis, his tag team partner in the British Invasion, British wrestling royalty, I suppose we could say, Mr. Doug Williams. Another guy I wanted to interview for a long time, and we had a really great chat. great stories talking about the UK scene, wrestling across Europe, going over to Japan, Ring of Honor, his run in TNA with that great X Division title run, and also his TV title run wrestling AJ Styles with some great matches. And asking him, even though he's retired, asking about the possibility of maybe coming back to Squared Circle one day. So that was a great chat. And another interview we got coming out after that will be with a Canadian wrestler, Jeremy Prophet. Great guy. I've spoken to him a couple of times. A great guy. And we haven't filmed the interview just yet. We'll be doing that as at time of recording tomorrow night. But some great stories I'm expecting. And he's wrestled a lot of the big stars of today from Canada, such as Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. And he's going to have some great stories. I've watched a lot of these interviews and he holds nothing back. So I try not to say my interview are shoot interviews. I like to say they're like conversations, but with this interview, I feel like this is going to be an all-out shoot interview where he ain't going to give a shit what he says. So looking forward to that one. And yeah, guys, so that's it. So thanks for watching the countdown. And like I said, 2020, my channel, I wouldn't have been able to do this without you, as corny as it says, but you're the guys what keeps me wanting to put out content. And you know, seeing them numbers go up every day, like views, like believe me when I see that one video has gone up by one view, like even if it's like after a day, that one view means a lot to me. And also the subscribers, I mean, like I said, I've always said once I started my channels, I will never make you pay for a Patreon or pay for merchandise or anything like that, because I feel like, you know, you should enjoy this content for free, because end of the day, this is a hobby for me and I enjoy doing it. And the fact that you enjoy watching my content, I would never want to charge you for it. The only way I want you to support my channel is just to hit that subscribe button. That's all I want. I want YouTube's money, not yours. So if you could hit that subscribe button, it would mean the absolute world to me. And yeah, and while you're there, you might as well enter, because once we hit 500 subs, we're going to be doing a giveaway of WWE Battlegrounds of a console of your choice. So what you got to lose? So there, everyone, thanks for watching this. Hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in the next video.